Welcome back. If you guys remember, about 4 years ago, I redid this front porch and I bought these beautiful porch poles, and I've always wanted to replicate them for the back of the house. You can see the back of the house has these 4x4s that were put there 13 years ago by my friends who built the roof. I built the floor, they built the roof. And when they said, "What do you want for porch poles?" I said, "Eventually I'll build something nice." And then when I got those porch poles in the front, I was inspired to make the same ones. And during a couple of storms early in the winter, this is around February, this tree broke and fell down. Now, this tree was standing dead for about 3 years. So were the next two that also fell down in the following couple of weeks. I had no way of knowing when they would fall. If they didn't fall, I was planning on cutting them down anyway. But as I was cutting them, in some cases I stored them on my property, in some cases I brought them over here to where the sawmill was. Now I have one tractor in two locations, so sometimes you'll see me pulling them up on the trailer, other times you'll see me using the machine over here at the location where the sawmill is. The sawmill's over at the graveyard house. And here you see us just milling up these pieces. I'm saving planks where I can. So I saved a lot of planks for all the excess wood that I was able to get mostly one good 6x6 out of everything. In some rare cases, I was able to get two. Now this is April. So in April, I was able to cut up most of that. Now this is another tree that fell over in another storm. Right in a row, 3 trees fell over. And that big one that's still standing there right over me, that's still there. That didn't fall down yet. And so here we are just harvesting them. In some cases, like I said, these are a couple of weeks, couple months apart. So sometimes the tractor's at the house, sometimes it's at the sawmill. I have to drive it 4 miles to and from, so it's a slow drive. But here you see us just getting some live edge planks, in some cases 6x1s, working our way down to the 6x6 that I need to keep. This is my Logosol 1001 sawmill. 1001 denotes 1 meter and 1 millimeter. It's just sort of a brand model number, but that's what that means. The 1001, the 751 is 750 millimeters. And so you can cut up to 1 meter, which is a little over 3 feet in diameter, and that's what that indicates. It's about 18 feet long. You see the planer there is that box. The planer I'm going to use in just a minute to plane the logs. But here I stored the logs in the early winter, or I guess in the beginning of the year, and now here it is springtime, we're cutting them up. The trees had been standing dead for quite some time, so the logs were not very wet. When we put them in the barn right here in April, they were pretty dry. They weren't totally dry, but they were not soaking wet like a live, thriving tree. They weren't extremely heavy. I was a little nervous that they were almost going to be too soft, like the wood itself. And everything went in the barn, and it wasn't until mid-August, when I was finished with the Cadillac, that I decided to start this project. This project has been 10 years or plus in the making. I know I wanted to make my own porch poles, and when I bought the porch poles for the front, I knew those are the ones that I would like to replicate. Now the ones in the front are clear pine glued together. These are solid chunks. They're going to check. There's going to be knot holes in one case. You'll see in a minute there's a bullet hole in one of them. That's okay. I don't mind the rough look. I don't mind the rugged look that you're going to get out of one solid chunk of wood. You can see it's already checking and cracking. As I milled it, there were cracks in it because, like I said, it was standing dead. But now here, this is the planer, and now this is in mid-August, so the wood had plenty of time to dry. There's that bullet I was talking about, just a 22, but that gets cut out when I do the lathe work. But these are the first two that I planed. I was kind of proud of myself figuring it out. Everything goes down to 6 inches, 6x6. It's actually like 6 1/8 by 6 1/8. Now I'm preparing the ends to go on my long lathe, and I'm using my tempo saw here. I don't use it throughout. I end up using a battery-operated saw eventually because there's a lot to do. I need 11 poles, and here, this is the very first time I'm running one of them on the lathe. You'll see how I'm able to capture the ends. This is my very first one, so I was taking it very cautious. I ended up having a laser cut corrugated template. I use those front porch poles as my my model, and I just eyeballed it from a photograph. It's not exactly the same, but I figured as long as all the ones in the back were the same to each other, that's all that mattered. So you see that plate that goes inside the 4-jaw chuck, that's a 6x6 plate. And now here, this is the other side. This goes on the live end, tailstock. It's another 6x6 plate, and I made them 6x6 so that I don't have to spend too much time centering them. They're going to land right on the edge, and I know they're going to be pretty close. Now, every one of these 10 poles were balanced almost perfectly. The machine didn't walk. I cut everything at the slowest possible speed. And the first couple that I made, I was getting big chips out of here, so to avoid those big chips, I just cut the corner down. Now you'll notice the design is right in the middle of the pole, 38 inches up for 41 inches up. So it's that 41 inches in the middle that gets the lathe work. And now this is a pattern maker's lathe. This is a 1930s blunt lathe. I bought it on Facebook Market years ago. You've seen me use it before. We used it in the TV show. It's a 12-foot long lathe, and I was able to put this 104, I cut them all to 104 just to leave them a little long. I was going to cut them to fit each space, which is all basically the same on the porch when you see by the end of the video. These just fit on the lathe, just fit. I probably could have put a 110-inch piece on. Now you see me working. The very first one I made is the one that I kept on the pedestal in front of me. I made the very first one based on the pattern, and then every one after that was based on the pattern and that pole. So that pole became the master, the very first one. So number 1 was the one I copied with calipers. I use calipers to space apart the elements. I use calipers to space the width. And I also used these wooden, I guess you might say wooden calipers for each individual section. They had them numbered from 1 to 10, and they were just different points along the design. And you see me there, just keep checking until I get close, and then I know that is my key for that spot. It's measured up from the bottom the right distance, it's measured down from the top at the right distance, and I had also been using the chisels, certain widths on the tips of the chisels to give me what I know is that spot for every single time. Now every time I cut one, I used Total Boat wood sealer straight away. That also helped with the finish, because once I painted it on it, I let it dry for a day and then I sanded it. And now here I am getting crazy. I got 4 in a row. I did run the circular saw across that, so it looks like I'm Superman, but I am cutting only about 2.5 inches down. No, about 3 inches. And here you see me working it, and I got faster and faster at it. And a lot of people sent me the thing that was going around on Instagram the last couple months, where it's a bunch of tumblers that fall once the part becomes the right diameter. That was my original plan, but once I made the first one, I was like, let me make the second one based on that, and that's how I just kept doing it one after another. Here, the end of this log was a little deteriorated. Early in the video, you see the broken end. This was the broken end. One of the trees broke about 10 feet up, and this is that broken end. And I was able to get exactly what I needed out of it with just a little bit into the broken spot. So I used Total Boat epoxy to fill in that end. And here you see me starting from scratch. So that compound, slide compound right there on the lathe, is the perch for the chisel, but it also holds the compound or the cross slide. So if you want to put a tool on it. Pattern maker's lathe, it's like a combination of a steel machinist lathe for steel and then a wood lathe. So I have that compound cross slide in the middle to be able to hold some steady diameters. But I freestyled it. I got more comfortable with just using the chisels ultimately. And right out of the camera's view is that original number 1. And I just kept reaching over and checking the calipers to the different spots on the design. And here you see I was able to get 10. So now I have 10. I needed 11. And behind the racetrack, there was a tree that had been laying on its side. So I went there and cut 2 10-foot pieces out of it. And me and Mike brought them both over to the mill. And we were able to cut one up. And obviously they're from the same tree, so they both had the same level of rot. And I picked the better of the 2, thinking that I was safe. And we brought it over to the lathe. And here you see, as it dried over the next day or 2, it just kept splitting deeper and deeper and deeper, and to the point where I realized this log would probably just throw apart if I really tried to go any further. It had some soft spot there in the pith. I was a little nervous that that would be the edge, that would be the bark wood. So outside my barn, I had this 8x8 that I was going to put at the graveyard house to use as a column. It's pine. That other one was dug first, so it didn't match the first 10 that I made. This matches. And by the way, this is the hand cut off of the log we got from behind the racetrack. And you see how it's already splitting. This is a day later, and you can see it splitting. So that's just going to happen to the pattern. If I try and cut that pattern in it, it's just going to fall apart. So to play it safe, I decided to use this 8x8. I brought this over to the sawmill, cut 2 inches off of both sides. There you see me cut one, and then 2 inches off of that side. And so now I'm just planing it. And this is number 11. That's what I need. I ran out of gas there. And I plane it up, and I bring it back to the shop. And you can see how that plane works. Runs on the same rails as the bandsaw. Now here I am taking it back 6 by 6, and we're good to go. Now here it is on the lathe, and I had a little issue. It's always the last couple that really screw you up. You think it's smooth sailing. I did 10 of them that worked out nearly perfect. Now just as an indication, this is my 11th. It's the last one I need. And when I turn the lathe on, here I am, just making sure the camera works. And I turn the lathe on and the thing starts jumping. I didn't get too much of it on camera because I immediately shut it off. But it started walking the lathe. The first one, that was unbalanced. And so it took about an hour to get it all balanced by screwing these weights on in the 2 areas, top and bottom of the design that I won't need to lathe. And I added these weights in. The tape is just a little insurance, but they're screwed in with 3-inch screws. And so now that those weights are on, just like a car tire, it's spinning balanced. It's not walking the machine. And so I'm able to get to work. And you could see my calipers there laying across the number 1. I'm keep calling it number 1. And so number 1 in front of number 11. And by the time the first one took me about 4 or 5 hours, the last one took me 30 minutes. So if this became a factory where I was making these, I would get faster and faster, all just by hand. Now, a lot of people think, you might have a CNC to do this. I'm sure somebody does, but I don't have a CNC big enough to do this. And you see how I just keep using number 1 as my pattern, just checking. And now I'm sanding it. Now this one, this was a beam I got from my buddy Austin, gave it to me, and we were going to use it in the graveyard house as a column. And I decided to do this. I can go get another one any other time. But this one was wet. So when I was working on this on the lathe, all the chips coming off it was soaking wet. And you could see how much of the pith is in there. That's like kind of the center of the tree, the dark spot, which ended up looking pretty nice once I put the total boat on it. You could see it really pops. It's like a nice 2-tone. So that's it. All the poles are done. Now here you see all those ugly 4x4s that were going to be temporary for 13 years. They're temporary. Now it's time to cut them out one at a time. Now I have to do this slow. I also am going to put a cap at the top, so I have to figure out the cap strips are 12 feet long. How am I going to take out 2 or 3 of these poles at a time and maintain holding up the porch with some temporary posts? Now I have one post there. You see it's the third one over from the left. You can't really see it, but it's got a screw jack under it. Now that one I cut with the blade, and it grabbed the blade, so there was still weight on it. When I'm able to cut it and just falls out, I know that I have enough tension holding it up in the air. So here I took that one that I just cut off, and I tensioned it up underneath. I had cut that, but it wouldn't fall out. So I had to hit that a little bit, and it moved that up just enough of a blade's width to be able to pull out that post. So there I'm able to pull out that post, and I left that angled one in there to maintain the leg. And so here you see that under that rib there, or that beam that goes across the top that holds the rafters. It's 3 in a row. When they built this, that's how they built it. My neighbors built it when I wasn't around. I didn't really have much say. I just said, make the roof straight. That's all I asked. And that gets nailed into the house. I'm going to cap it from underneath. So those 3 2x8s laminated side by side with nails. To clean up that whole look, I'm going with this clear pine, Home Depot pine, and it just gets air nailed up in there, and it really cleaned up the whole look. I'm using that chapstick there. I'm using that as a spacer because it's a little bit wider than the 3 of those 2x8 side by side. It's a little bit wider by about 1/4 inch on the front and the back. And you see I was just able to hold it in place and mark it. And now I'm using the circ saw to cut 3 sides, and then I use a hand saw to just finish through. Now this is my very first one I'm installing. Every open cut I'm sealing it up with Total Boat. I know it's not going to save it forever, but it's just to help slow down the decay. By the end of this video I leave everything natural. In time I might paint it. Everything gets toe-nailed at the bottom, and then I'll screw down straight from inside the trim. You'll see me do that later. I will change the deck surface next summer. This deck surface is really beat up. It's taken quite a beating from the weather. Now I put my second one in, and it was one of those nights where I was like, oh, let me take a break. But I kept going. I kept going into the night. And I ended up putting about 5 up by the end of this first night. Like I said, I had to keep planning. Every time I put up a 12-foot 1x6 at the top, I had to plan how I was going to hold up 2 spaces. And I ended up doing that by just using the screw jack up along the side of the rafter post there, the rafter beam. Here I made the turn, so I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now here it is the next morning, and I got to work my way around the other side, and I decided I did the extreme one side. Now I'm going to start from the extreme other side and work my way around to the opposite side. And that's what you could see here. And I was avoiding going near oh, by the way, that's where those trees were. All 3 of those trees had fallen from right there. That one's going to fall any minute. So I was avoiding those 3 poles in the corner covered with the wandering hydrangea. Is that what that is? Somebody correct me in the comment section. And I made all the poles about 1 inch too long because I had a feeling that each one of them would need to be custom fit. The bottom of the deck has taken some beating from the weather, so it's not all perfectly flat. In here you see that column is towed up. Now I was able to take out the support. Some cases I used the bottle jack or the screw jack. In some cases I used that right triangle method where you just kick it up and in. That's how I held up the whole front porch. And I'll screw it up about a 1/2 turn and then bang the column in and then screw it down. And here you see me getting rid of that material. I saved the bottom so it'll grow back in the spring. I tried to save the whole bush. But here you see how I'm able to hold it up. Some cases I used a 2x4, but here I used a piece of 1/4 inch angle iron. And that way it's completely out of my way when I put that cap up from underneath. And here you can see I removed that pole and I'm putting that 1x6 up underneath, just popping some nails in it, keeping it in place. I did need to use a couple of clamps, a couple of Jurgensen clamps, just to make sure everything was held where I needed it. Some wood has a little twist in it and want to get it fixed in place so that I could pop nails in it as I go. And I did all this work by myself, just nobody was available. And now here you can see how I'm holding the columns in place. I want to be able to pop them out easily when I do some maintenance on the deck. I already mentioned I'm probably going to change the deck surface next summer. And here I'm getting rid of more of that wandering plant. Now working on the corner is always interesting because I put my cap up with the 45 on it. Now I can't put the corner post in right away, so I put it right near the corner so that I can keep moving my bottle jack around. Now here I need to hold that corner up. I'm going to put the corner post in here. I also had to rebuild the footprint at each one of the poles because the original 4x4s were down into the framing, not onto the surface of the deck. So I had to add a new piece under each, which is okay. That's just going to help make it last a little bit longer. So even though that's not its permanent spot, I want to level it just so I know that it looks right. I'm able to move the bottle jack. Oh, we got a spectator. The building inspector. Okay, back to work. Back to work. And now here you see how I'm able to come to the other corner with a 45, nail that up in place. And now once the 45 and the 45 on the corner is in place, I'm able to move that corner post over and underneath. And here you see I'm able to just move it with a little bit of tapping it. Nothing was screwed yet, so I'm able to just tap it over a little bit at a time, get it level, toenail the bottom, screw down from the top. And I was able to put that last post in. When I stood back, I thought the porch needed a new fascia board, and that's what I'm doing here. I just want to get myself a 1x8. I had to scribe it over the rocks at the front steps there. But here you see I'm basically done. I did all this work by myself because none of my assistants are available. And there it is. I'm very proud of this. This is 10 years in the making, like I've said. And it came out better than I expected. And like I said, I'm proud to say that I did all of those from trees that fell on the property about 30 feet away. It wasn't planned like that, but as they fell, I took the opportunity to save them and mill them up on my brand new sawmill from Logosol. Logosol, thank you very much. And now for the obligatory beauty shots from the drone. And there you see, I'm going to keep it unpainted for now. I could always paint it later. But for now, I'm going to let it weather a little bit, see how it looks. Like I said, this is the rustic part of the deck. The front is really for show. The back is for hanging out and having fun. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did enjoy making them. Thank you for sticking around. You could always go to my Patreon to see behind the scenes. I'm always showing projects in process on my Patreon. Thank you, Logosol, and thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.